Carl's life was a complete mess. He was already middle-aged, yet he had achieved absolutely nothing. A failed marriage, a stalled career. After 5 years working at a bank, he was still just an invisible office clerk. And all of it traced back to one fatal habit. Carl was a classic no person. To avoid social interaction, he said no to almost everything. Walk-in clients, turned away without hesitation. Years of social anxiety had locked him inside his own shell. No matter what happened, his first reaction was always rejection. Someone handed out flyers on the street, he put on sunglasses and pretended not to see. Salespeople approached his car, he rolled up the window and acted busy. Even when his ex-wife flirted with her new boyfriend right in front of him, Carl just lowered his head and quietly walked away. But the more he avoided life, the harder life hit back. The promotion he had waited years for ended up going to someone else. He pretended not to care. But alone, he sank into silence and despair. Until one day, an old friend he hadn't seen in years suddenly showed up, Nick. Nick used to be just as ordinary as Carl, but now, he looked like a completely different person. He was living a life Carl never even dared to imagine. Climbing mountains, traveling to remote countries. A life full of excitement and change. And it all started with something called a life seminar. Nick immediately noticed the emptiness in Carl's eyes, and strongly urged him to attend. Carl refused to admit anything was wrong, insisting his life was just fine. Seeing how stubborn he was, Nick picked up a rock, and smashed the bank's glass door. That single rock not only destroyed Carl's 5-year career, but also cracked the hard shell around his heart. Even so, Carl's life didn't improve, until Nick finally lost his patience, and told him straight to his face, "If you keep living like this, you're going to die alone." That night, Carl had an incredibly vivid nightmare. In the dream, he died alone in his apartment, and none of his friends seemed to care. He woke up drenched in sweat, truly afraid for the first time, that he might disappear from the world, without anyone noticing. So, just to try something different, Carl finally agreed to attend the seminar with Nick. What he didn't expect was that it felt more like extreme brainwashing. On stage, the speaker repeated one message over and over: say yes to everything in life. Carl was skeptical, but the speaker singled him out and said, "If you never say no, good luck will follow you. The moment you refuse, bad luck will come knocking." After the seminar, as they were about to leave, a homeless man spotted Carl's fancy car. He asked for a ride, and demanded to be driven all the way home. Carl instinctively wanted to say no, but under Nick's pressure, he nodded for the first time in his life. And just like that, a filthy homeless man climbed into his car. But it didn't stop there. Along the way, the man kept making new requests. First, he borrowed Carl's phone. Then he chatted non-stop, laughing the whole time. Without realizing it, Carl found himself infected by the man's carefree mood. The drive led farther and farther into nowhere. His phone died completely. After the homeless man got out, he came back asking for some cash. Carl hesitated, then agreed. Only on the way back did Carl realize his car had run out of gas. No phone, no people, middle of nowhere. All he could do was grab a gas can and walk downhill, complaining the entire way. What Carl never imagined was that this miserable experience would completely change his life. While searching for a gas station, he ran into a strange but radiant woman. She was nothing like anyone Carl had ever met. Free-spirited, direct, always chasing wild, ridiculous new experiences. After hearing what happened, she didn't ask questions. She simply offered him a ride, but she was clearly a little crazy. She sped down the road while taking photos, turning the whole drive into pure chaos and thrill. When she dropped him off, she suddenly leaned in and kissed him. Before Carl could react, the car vanished into the night. Only then did he realize he hadn't even gotten her contact information. That brief, absurd encounter planted a question in Carl's mind. Could saying yes really change a life? From that day on, Carl decided to live exactly as the seminar taught. No matter what people asked, he almost never said no. His boss asked him to work weekends, he agreed. Dating apps sent invitations, he accepted them all. A client wanted a loan to open a cupcake shop. Even though it sounded risky, Carl approved it. And soon, changes began to appear. Thinking on his feet, Carl sent the cupcakes to his boss as a gift. His proactive, flexible attitude immediately won recognition. His boss promised him the position once he got promoted, and even gave Carl a raise on the spot. After work, Carl excitedly invited friends to a bar to celebrate. Once the alcohol kicked in, he completely let loose. He danced in the crowd, not caring who watched. He even announced that drinks were on him tonight. But just as the vibe peaked, he accidentally angered another man. The guy challenged him on the spot. Carl didn't back down. He said yes again. The result was obvious. He got beaten badly. The next morning, as Carl stepped outside, a neighbor asked him to help fix some furniture. He agreed. What he didn't expect was that the sweet-looking old lady had other intentions. When she suddenly got too close, Carl finally said no, and the moment he did, disaster struck. His clothes got caught in the door, and in the chaos, he tumbled down the stairs. From that point on, Carl was terrified of refusing anything. When his boss suggested a casual office party, everyone else complained. Only Carl agreed. That small decision brought him incredibly close to his boss. Almost too close. From then on, Carl accepted nearly every request. Salespeople came, he bought everything. Charities asked, he donated instantly. He tore down training flyers and signed up for all of them. He learned guitar, languages, even flying planes, trying lives he never imagined before. Slowly, Carl experienced real happiness for the first time. As he opened doors for others, life kept rewarding him in return. One evening after work, Carl took a flyer for a bar. That night, he walked in, and to his shock, the singer on stage was the woman from the gas station. The coincidence made Carl believe even more that, yes, was changing his life. After the show, she approached him again. Carl invited her for a drink. She politely declined. She had to wake up early. That's when Carl learned her name was Allison. By day, she was a photography instructor, meeting students at the park at 6 a.m. Without hesitation, Carl said he'd join. That night, he set a 6 a.m. alarm for the first time in years. But then a friend called, inviting him to party all night. Carl hesitated for a second, then said yes. The party lasted until sunrise, yet Carl still showed up on time. The alcohol hadn't worn off, but he was full of energy. Bright eyes, genuine smile. That long-lost sunshine hit Allison right in the heart. She talked about her past relationships. Closed off, lazy, antisocial men. Carl felt like she was describing his old self. Now, he was finally enjoying life. Under the morning sun, they talked endlessly. Feelings grew fast. Before long, they became a couple. Carl took Allison to parties. She taught him how to ride a motorcycle. Sometimes they stayed out late, climbed fences, and sang on empty outdoor stages. Their voices echoed in the night, and quietly took root in their hearts. With love fueling him, Carl's career exploded. Because he never refused anyone, clients kept flooding in. In 1 month alone, he approved over 500 small loans. Most loan officers handled only 30 or 40. Executives took notice. Everyone thought he'd be fired. Instead, the opposite happened. Because his standards were low, clients were grateful, and paid back on time. The bank made a fortune. Carl was promoted to the board, put in charge of microloans. Love and career both at their peak. Carl stood on top of the world. Every class he had ever taken paid off. When he spoke multiple languages fluently to waiters, his friends stared in disbelief. No one could believe this charming man used to be terrified of the world. Then, just as everything seemed perfect, another accident happened. Someone burst into a restaurant, shouting that a man was about to jump. Carl didn't hesitate. He ran out first. On the rooftop, the man was breaking down. No rescue teams had arrived. The crowd stood helpless. Carl stepped inside, facing someone crushed by life. He didn't know what to say. Then he saw a guitar in the corner. Everything he had learned became a lifeline. Carl strummed and sang on the spot. The melody was simple, but it hit deep. The man calmed down. The crowd fell silent. Despair retreated. The danger passed. Carl became an anonymous hero. The spotlight made Allison love him even more, and made his ex-wife want him back. But this time, Carl had already chosen. Later, Carl and Allison fell in love with spontaneous travel. Every weekend, they walked into an airport, and boarded the next departing flight. No destination needed. Friends could only watch in envy on TV. But over time, problems surfaced. Though they were lovers, they never truly merged their lives. So Allison suggested moving in together. Carl agreed, but hesitated. His failed marriage still haunted him. On their next trip, they were suddenly detained by police. Carl's behavior looked suspicious. Constant flights, learning to fly, speaking multiple languages, even lending money to a chemical plant. All the coincidences together looked dangerous. Carl couldn't explain himself. Worse, Allison began to doubt him. Luckily, Nick arrived in time. He proved everything traced back to the yes seminar. Carl was cleared, but Allison's trust was shattered. She realized Carl's yes wasn't always sincere. The relationship fell apart. Alone again, Carl hit rock bottom. Life lost its color. But this time, he faced the truth. When his ex-wife asked to reunite, Carl firmly said no. Bad luck followed instantly. Broken elevators, constant accidents. It felt like a curse. Desperate, Carl found the mentor again. This time, the truth came out. Saying yes doesn't mean agreeing to everything. It means learning to choose, and follow your heart. Carl finally understood. Before, he used yes to avoid responsibility. The moment it clicked, he acted. Borrowing a sports car, he raced through the city, using everything he had learned to chase what truly mattered. In the morning park, Carl confessed everything to Allison. His fear, his mistakes, and his real choice. This time, not out of habit, but from the heart. They reunited. Later, Carl and Allison devoted themselves to charity, distributing donated clothes to the homeless. Many of those clothes came from people still blindly saying yes. Carl finally understood. What truly changes a life is never just saying yes. It's knowing when to nod and when to bravely say no.